Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're joined by Marc Sale, CEO, and James Knowles, Chairman of First Class Metals. Welcome back, gents. I didn't expect it to be so soon.
Welcome back, Phil and Kev.
Hi, Phil. Hi, Kevin.
Hi there. Yeah, so obviously the company announced significant developments, and I think I joked last time that they come in threes, but certainly looked like the recent news again was in threes. So firstly, the company secured an exclusivity agreement for the Kerrs Gold Project in Northeastern Ontario, which boasts a historic estimate of 386,467 ounces of gold. Additionally, you received a $200,000 Canadian grant from the Ontario Junior Exploration Program for the Zigzag lithium and critical metals property, and a GST HST credit amounting to 212,000 Canadian dollars for the fiscal year 2023. James, you highlighted the timely acquisition of funds, the strategic investment during market downturns, and the pursuit of undervalued assets like the Kerrs Gold Property. This approach, alongside judicious divestment, is aimed at strengthening the company's financial position and portfolio for future growth. So just talk us through just how important these grants and credits are right now in these challenging markets, please, James.
Well, extremely important, I felt. The fact we can get ourselves some non-dilutive funding of this nature, when $413,000 just about altogether is a tremendous boost in the company at this stage of our progress. So yeah, very pleased indeed. The grant money, as you know, was awarded the grant a couple of weeks ago, but we had quite a lot of work to do to get it through the system before the end of the Canadian Ministry's fiscal year at the end of March. So fair play to our guys, and really good report written up, very detailed at short notice, which was submitted, accepted, and we got paid out on it before the fiscal year end, which was a tremendous performance, really.
Absolutely. So this GST HST credits, I think it's been likened to this something equivalent of VAT in the UK. Can you just talk the listeners through how?
Yeah, of course. GST HST is very similar to UK VAT. It's a value-added tax onto goods or services that you purchase over in Canada. So, in effect, I think the rate's between 13 and 15% generally. So that's the full 2023 financial year of expenditure in Canada back as a tax refund. So instead of doing it quarters like we do in this country, it's an annual event. So you create the claim at the end of the financial year, gets audited by the Canadian Tax Authority, and then you get it paid out usually in the first quarter of the year again. So we got our timings in line, submitted it in a very timely fashion, and got paid out before the end of the fiscal year again, which ended last week. So yeah, good work, and pleased with that. It certainly helps us along the way this year.
Yeah, so it put you in a better financial position, but then you've gone ahead and got yourself another project. So what's that all about?
Well, sometimes when you get access to something that is particularly good, and you may not be in the market for it, definitely it's when you see something that is good in these markets, and there is assets flying around that because of the market, it's so depressed that you think to yourself, you know what, we'd have a go at that. And we saw this, we had the confidence of knowing we were likely getting these funds in, and the timing just seemed perfect. And from a wider perspective, I'll pass over to Mark to give a bit of an idea of how he thinks it helps us as a company.
I think it comes back to my basic philosophy about exploration, and that it's like a conveyor belt. And we have advanced 4 of our projects, certainly 3 of them, to a point where they need to be drilled. We've de-risked them. So in the anticipation of some monetization event in the future, I think James and I felt we needed to put something on the front end of the conveyor belt again. And James is quite right. We were given the confidence because I was actually told we were getting this OJ grant at PDAC almost a month ago, but we kept it very quiet until it was actually confirmed and everything had been signed. But the money that we've received from the government, the Canadian government, gave us the confidence as well as the finances to enter into these 3 agreements, the Quinlan lithium one, the McInnes Lake gold and lithium, and now the Kerrs Gold resource. So the first year's activities and the execution cost of these 3 deals is covered by the money that we received from the Canadian government, with some surplus, obviously. So James is absolutely right. In these sort of times when there's these quality assets going out at distressed prices, if you're in a position to take advantage of, and of course we don't just go out and pick up anything. We do look for things of quality, but also we look for things that I won't say underexplored, but underappreciated, so that we can find that extra bit in them that has been missed by previous explorers or by non-explorers. So I'm quite excited about the fact that we've got these 3 new properties. Yes, obviously, to make a significant inroad into them, i.e. drilling, more than the government funds would be required. But with the deal structures that we've signed up for on all 3, the work commitments in the first 2 years are quite light. So it puts us in a good position to focus on our existing core properties and bring those to event, whilst in the background starting to build these up as, shall we say, replacements. So it's what exploration companies should do in an ideal situation. But obviously the market is so challenging in London and everywhere really at the moment that you have to a really deep thought doing the right thing here. But I feel we are. I feel we're doing what an exploration company should do.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give us a background, we've got a resource estimate of 386,467 ounces of that sort of goldy stuff. And that basically is in Canada as an NI 43-101, which is a JORC report in the rest of the world, I presume. So effectively, we anything about this? So is there high-grade veins in this? Is there low-grade veins in this? I mean, I saw some stuff which was saying that there was some very good grams per ton, but give us your view of why you think you can take this one up the Lassonde curve. Because I mean, right now it's basically sort of sitting at the base of the Lassonde curve, saying, make me worth more money. So how are you going to do it?
Yeah, well, obviously we'll have to do a very sort of detailed review of the NI 43-101, but from an initial high level to give us enough encouragement to proceed with the deal. As you say, we're in an exclusivity period at the moment, but to proceed with the deal, and the commercial terms of the deal have all agreed, by the way. When you look at the 300, nearly 400,000 ounces, it's a relatively low cutoff grade. But when you look at the table, you can, obviously by reducing the ounces, increase that cutoff grade significantly, 5-fold, to be honest. So that does point out to me, as you quite rightly alluded to, that you've got potentially a low-grade halo with higher grade cores, and therefore you do have a high-grade target. So one of the things we would be looking at is the possibility of extending those or exploring for those high-grade shoots, those high-grade zones, in order that we can increase not necessarily the tonnage significantly, but certainly the ounces.
So do you? I mean, just on the back of a pack factor calculation, is there a couple of 100 ounces there of high grade gold? You believe in that overall
yes.
JORC?
Yeah, I wouldn't say high grade, a medium grade. Yeah.
What are we talking about when we're talking about medium grade then? Are we talking 1, 2, 3?
2 to 3 grams plus.
Okay. Which, with a gold price of $2,275 per ounce as we stand, is not insignificant.
Oh, far from it. I mean, the JORC isn't contemporary. It's 10 years-ish old, but a 43-101 is a 43-101. The only thing they've done over the years, to be honest, is made them more stringent. So if it was good then, it's good. It's good now.
Yeah.
Because you've got to remember, the basis of a 43-101 is reasonable expectation of economic extraction. And I'm not saying that's a quote, but it's what's burnt into my forehead when dealing with 43-101s. That's the absolute sort of yardstick, shall we say, reasonable economic expectation of extraction. So with a 43-101, you're not just looking at the tons, grade, ounces. You're looking at the potential infrastructure and all sorts of peripheral things, are other lookalikes nearby, the style of mineralization, what model you put it into. So it's not just a calculation of 43-101. It's the first step of a PEA or a pre-feasibility.
Yeah. And is there other assets around that are actually pouring gold and anywhere near?
Well, Newmont has a lot of property to the south, but it's in Timmins. I mean, you can't drive far anywhere around Timmins. It's one of the most prolific gold producing areas. I'll say Canada, but I wanted to say the world. Some of the mines that have produced over the years out of Timmins, this is about 90 kilometres from the town of Timmins. So again, the infrastructure will be good. The ability of services, be it drilling or whatever, will be good. So it's well located. And I haven't yet contacted the First Nations because we don't have an executed agreement, but I have spoken to the chap who I use for First Nation contact, and he knows the First Nations in that area, and he says they're commercially minded because they've been dealing with exploration mining companies for a number of years now. So if we carry on with our, shall we say, historic deportment with the First Nations that we have over the last 18 months, and I would draw your attention to that letter that the Netmazagmi First Nation sent to the Minister of Mines, George Pirrie, which was out on the internet today, about their attitude towards the staking system in Canada. But in that letter to the Minister, they named First Class Metals as a company with whom they had good relations. So we all know that the positive input of the First Nations for an exploration company in Ontario is critical. There's no other way to put it. And so far, we've as I say, we've deported ourselves to the right standards.
I think in that letter, Mark, just to add a bit more context to it, there's 20, 30 operators in that area. And I mentioned 4 names, which was First Class Barrick and West Dome Gold Mines, plus one other explorer. So it's in a short time of 18 months since we listed, we've certainly made a name for ourselves in the right way in that area.
That's good. So just to recap that, Mark, what I see as a business person and also geologist in terms of this particular project is the real gain here would be to increase that, say, 200,000 ounces of higher gold propensity in the middle of this, or wherever it happens to be in this particular project, and maybe increase that to 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, who knows, of higher grade gold. Then it becomes very prospective in terms of your ability to make that financially viable, or to, again, take it up the Lassonde curve and sell it to someone who can bring it out the ground.
Yes, exactly. A very good price, very good price. See, I would add to that it's always been the intention of First Class never to be a producer. And whilst sale of some assets would be the preferred option, this is one that we might well consider, were we able to achieve what you've just outlined, where we might hold on to, say, 20% of it and run with it and let the other developer or proven developer take it on to feasibility or whatever. And as I say, this is another area where flow-through money would be a great advantage for us to explore in order to achieve that higher ounce, higher grade, and then also potentially carry on, as I say, as a subordinate partner in an event take up to feasibility.
Okay, so explain to people how the flow-through money works, because I think most of us haven't got a clue. Tell us what it's all about.
In a nutshell, flow-through is a Canadian taxation scheme. It's approved and supported by the Canadian government. In fact, they've just extended it through to July 2025, I think it was. There was talk that it would stop 1st of April, but they realise what a support it is, a financial support it is for the exploration industry. Basically what happens is somebody who owes a lot of tax to the Canadian government can offset that tax by putting some of the money that they should pay in tax into resource stocks. And then the Canadian government gives some relief on that. So the explorer gets money, the tax person gets stock, and they don't have to pay as much tax. So you're really sort of converting a tax liability into an asset.
And that money has to be spent in the province of Ontario exploration. So that's how that's the benefit. That's the end of the circle. It recirculates back into the ground, back into the economy.
And it's quite stringent what is considered exploration. Like drilling is a beautiful example of exploration. Buying a 4-wheel drive isn't. Directors pay, and it's got to be exploration, not expenses, not salaries, not capital items. In fact, Bruce tells me, Bruce from Emerald Geological Services, that they were out exploring, and he lost a couple of paddles for the canoe. So they went to the local store and bought 2 more paddles. And when the assessment reports were being checked for flow through, the ministry turned around and said, sorry, 2 paddles, you can't claim those. He said, well, it was essential for exploration. He said, no, doesn't work. So they do go over it quite thoroughly.
It's like they were up a certain creek without a certain paddle.
Yeah, I was trying to get that one in, but well done. But
so
yeah,
basically it's a version of an EIS.
Yeah, that's
in
the
terms
UK
of the UK version, but this has to be for mining and exploration, and it is relevant, obviously, in Ontario more than anywhere else, I presume.
And the other thing too is that depending on what it is, and actually depending on the province, you get a scale up. Like gold's 1.2 markup, but critical metals are 1.6. So in other words, you get $1.6 for your $1 tax liability. So depending on what the money is spent on, the explorer gets a better deal.
Okay, explain that again, Mark. I'm not sure how that works.
Different provinces have different scale-ups, or what do they call it, James? I can't remember, increments or something like that.
Yeah, some sort of premium, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and Quebec has the highest one. Ontario isn't bad, but not only is it province by province, it's also the mineral. Gold is sort of like the standard, whereas lithium or critical metals get a higher proportionate for your tax dollar against what the dollar that the exploration companies get. Sorry.
Okay, so that's specifically an explanation. That is specifically for the exploration company rather than the tax person, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, from the perspective of what's next, what is next? I mean, we said we didn't expect to hear from you quite as soon as this, so tell us what we could expect to see next.
We will kick off the field season late April. I'm going over there myself towards the end of April for Ontario Prospectors Association convention in Thunder Bay, which attracts a lot of explorers and investors. So after that, we'll be kicking off the field season. With the current way metal prices are going, I don't think it takes much thinking to work out which direction we will start off with the exploration. And in amongst that, one of the reasons that I want to go to this OPA gig is the fact that there's going to be a lot of lithium-orientated people there who I want to rub shoulders with so we can advance the Zigzag project in whatever direction the market and First Class decides we should take it.
Okay, very good. I mean, again, from the point of view of yourselves, you're set up as explorers and a company that's going to move assets up that Lassonde curve. You're doing that, and obviously also fill in the bucket at the same time with these new projects as well. So I wish you luck over the next few months, and hopefully we'll hear from you sooner rather than later with some updates possibly on Zigzag and some of the other projects that you have in your stable.
Yep, watch that space. And thanks for taking the time, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Cheers, Phil.
So Marc Sale and James Knowles of First Class Metals, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.